If you are looking to become more athletic and train the correct way, then here's 3 traps that you're going to want to avoid within your own training. Hey, what up, fam? If you're new here, my name is Nick Lee. I am a high performance coach, and I want to help you become the best that you can possibly be. And as I said in this video, we're going to talk about 3 common traps that I have seen both strength coaches and athletes fall into when it comes to training to become more athletic. This video is going to be short and sweet because I want to give you the most value that I can. And if this is something that is interesting to you, please like, share, subscribe, anything that you want to do. It always lets me know that I'm making good content and I can keep going and keep bringing you guys some good stuff week by week. All right, we're into it. The first trap is going to be a bit of a hot take in the S&C world, especially with certain strength coaches. But that first trap is going to be that strength is the end all be all. If you have dealt with a lot of strength and conditioning coaches, you will definitely notice that if an injury happens, if something happens that shouldn't happen, or if something happens in training that's a little bit weird, a strength coach will always blame it on strength, or certain strength coaches will always blame it on, well, you don't have enough strength in that area. You don't have enough strength here. You don't have enough strength in that movement. Whatever it may be, it always falls back to strength. And while a very good strength base and a level of robustness for an athlete is very crucial, it's very, very good for you to be able to express strength in different ways, in different sports, and in a bunch of different realms. But when it comes to certain movements and certain things, getting past that base level of strength, you don't need to go far beyond it, especially if you're a field athlete or kind of a sport generalist, as what we call just normal sports. So strength doesn't always equal more athleticism. And just to illustrate this for you, we're going to go right into 2 different athletes. Over here, we have an athlete that can squat very heavy. And over here, we have an athlete that can squat not very heavy, pretty light. But that's the best that they can do. Over here, the heavy squatter has been told time and again by all of his or her strength coaches that strength is the only thing that matters. This guy can squat 500 pounds. That's a lot of weight, especially if you are a field athlete, okay? But since this person thinks that strength is the end all be all, they're going to push that 500-pound squat and try to get to 525, 550, which in the grand scheme of things, going from 5 to even 550 isn't going to make that big of a difference in your play. However, the amount of time you spend driving that squat number up could be better used in different qualities of training. So not only are you spending a lot more time and resources and honestly energy into upping the squat, you are diminishing the time spent on doing things that are actually athletic, running, sprinting, jumping, conditioning, like anything that you think of skill work, right? So just because that person thinks that they have to get a heavier squat, they are going to miss out on other things because going up and beyond a very heavy squat is going to take more time, more energy, more recovery. And that's the thing that you don't get, or you don't get the other qualities when you're working on just that one thing. On the other side of the equation, we have the person that doesn't squat a whole lot. They have kind of a light squat. Let's think about someone who squats only 275 pounds. Not very heavy, right? Still somewhat heavy based on the athlete, but let's just say for the sake of it, these people are kind of equal. A 275-pound squat, not great. However, this person knows that they need to work on building that squat strength, but they also know that they need a more well-rounded program. They're going to do skill work. They're going to condition. They're going to sprint. They're going to work on acceleration. They're going to do all the things that it takes to be athletic. And while this person over here isn't going to necessarily get up to a 500 or a 550-pound squat, let's say after the same amount of time that this person took to get to 550, this person jumps up to 375, 405. Okay, a bigger improvement in squat, and they've spent more time doing different things, working on different qualities. So my question to you is, who do you think is going to fare out better in sport? The person who continually does athletic stuff and increases their squat and has a pretty solid increase in squat, or the person who is only worried about squat and doesn't really spend a lot of time on other things, right? I'm going to take this person 10 times out of 10 because being strong is great, but if you can't express that strength in any way, shape, or form, you're kind of useless, right? So be like this person. You don't have to be the strongest number-wise, but you can be the most robust. You can work on all of the things that make you athletic. Strength being the end all be all leads us right into point two. And point two is to not become too attached to numbers. With anything that you are measuring, it is so easy to fall into the trap of becoming attached to numbers. You can use a squat reference, you can use an acceleration reference, you can use a top end speed reference of a flying 10. Anything that you want to measure. Yes, measuring these things is good to see if what you're doing is improving these measures, because if we're not improving things that we believe will make kids more athletic, then we're just wasting our time, right? But becoming attached to these numbers. And what does that look like? It looks like if you are training for a certain purpose, if you're trying to hit a speed number or a strength number, anytime that your training goes good, you're going to be happy. You're going to be on top of the world. You're going to be feeling good, right? But anytime your training is bad and you don't hit things you should hit, you are going to be down in the dumps. You're going to be pissy and you're going to be a mad person, all because of some arbitrary number that you think you need to hit. That is what becoming attached to a number looks like. And what do? You give power to that number. Your sense of self-worth, your self-identity, how you are as a human being is not within you anymore. You have given all of that power away to some stupid number because you think you have to hit it to be able to be the best athlete in whatever sport you're playing. And I'm not going to give too many examples here. I just think it's super important to reiterate that, yes, measuring things is good, but becoming attached to those measurements and attached to those numbers in such a way that it affects your day-to-day mood and personality, that's when you give those numbers power. And that is an easy trap to fall into, especially when you measure basically numbers in strength and conditioning and all of the training things that you do. Instead, I'm just going to give a slight solution here. Instead of focusing purely on numbers, focus on the intent behind everything that you do. Control what you can control, and that is what you put into all of the exercise and training that you do, and let the outcomes, the numbers, be where they may. I know this is hard, and I know when you make improvements, everything goes up, but at some point, something's got to give, and you have to start focusing on the right things, and that is your intent into what you're doing rather than the outcomes of everything that you do. And then the last trap, we've all seen it with strength and conditioning coaches who have worked with the upper high school population and like the first years of college kids. And that's going to be thinking that people or kids only need to lift to become more athletic. And why do you see this with the strength coaches and trainers who work with high school and young college kids? That is because, one, anything you do is going to work. And two, because it works, you're doing all of this lifting and it all works. So then you're like, oh, all I got to do is just do all these lifting things, get some strength, and then we'll be more athletic, which isn't the whole story. You could probably guess that because it is on this list of traps. But these kids are out playing sports all the time. They're working on skills. They're running, they're jumping, they're screwing around with their friends. The last thing they need added in to make it all-encompassing is the lifting portion. So as a strength coach, you don't see all the other stuff. You see the lifting, and then you see the benefits of the lifting. And then all you think is, oh, we just have to lift more. We just have to be stronger, and then we'll be more athletic. Not true. How do I know this? This one is from personal experience because I have thought the same things. And then as I go through graduate school pursuing a professional sport, and I get past graduate school where I get to spend significantly less amounts of time on playing sports, on being athletic, some of my lifts have shifted into, or some of my training has shifted into purely lifting. And then lo and behold, after some cycles of only lifting, I go try to jump, I go try to run, and I tweak something, or something hurts, or something feels way worse than it used to feel, which goes right back to the old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that is very, very true with athletic movements. What are we going to do about this trap? Understand that lifting, especially for young people, is going to move the needle a lot. However, it is not the only thing they do. If you notice, they play the sports, they do the things. Even in your own training for a young athlete, you're going to have jumps, you're going to have things that are explosive, you're going to have accelerations, and you're going to have top speed work outside of their sport or on top of all of the sport things that they do. So even a good training program for those young kids doesn't have only lifting. So why in the hell would somebody who's getting older and older and playing less and less sports only need to lift to stay athletic? It just doesn't make sense. So trap number 3, you only need to lift to stay athletic. Very untrue. Just look at all of the people who stop doing athletic things and tell me that they're still athletic even though they just lift. So there you have it. 3 traps that both athletes and strength coaches can fall into when it comes to training. After watching the video, I hope you have a couple ideas of what you can pepper into your own training program so that you have a better, more well-rounded, more all-encompassing, solid training program to make you more athletic. If building out a program is super interesting to you, all I ask is that you go check out my other video about the 3 pillars of athleticism that I have made previously, just talking about the 3 things to take into consideration when you're building a program to become the best athlete at whatever sport that you're playing. And as always, hit that like, hit that subscribe, share it with someone who you think could benefit from this video. And I appreciate y'all. Have a great day. Peace.